Hey everybody, it's Brett Benner and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Stack, where today I'm thrilled to be sitting down with author Kirsten Miller for her brand new book, The Women of Wild Hill. A little bit about Kirsten. She is the author of The Curse, a GMA book club pick, Lulu Dean's Little Library of Banned Books, and the groundbreaking YA series starring Kiki Strike. Born and raised in a small town in North Carolina, she now lives in Brooklyn, New York. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Behind the Stack. I'm thrilled to welcome to the show today Kirsten Miller, whose new book, The Women of Wild Hill, is wild. It's just fantastic. So thank you so much for being here. I'm thrilled to be sitting down with you.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm so curious, before we get into the book itself, just as a little background on you. I know you were raised in Sylva, North Carolina,
That's
in
right.
the Blue Ridge Mountains.
We're right where the Blue Ridge and the Smokies come together. So I think technically it's the Smokies.
Okay. And your dad was a school teacher, yes? Were
Well,
you always
both of my parents were teachers until, I don't know, the early 80s when they started their own business. But yeah, before then my father taught history and my mother taught math.
Were you always somebody who was interested in kind of the paranormal, the mystical, all of that kind of stuff? You
Yes, I
were?
was I was that weird kid who found that there was a particular aisle in the local library where they had all the weird books, and I would just sit there for hours and read about ghosts and aliens and all of that stuff.
Isn't that so funny?
Yes.
I It's such an interesting thing that too. I was going to say in this modern age, the accessibility to certain books. There's so much stuff kids can access now, whether it's digitally or all that kind of stuff. But so much of it's like I was raised completely in a library, and that used to be such a thing. My mom every 2 weeks, I'd check out my books and I'd get my stack, and I had my little library card, and I loved that so much. And I
Yeah.
hope that still exists for people. I don't know.
I think it does for a lot of people. I spend a lot of time. The head branch of the Brooklyn Public Library is about 3 blocks from my house,
Uh,
and it's pretty hopping. Like the people, it really is. I think it's a lot of people's third place.
yeah.
They can go and sit and be by themselves and you know fall down whatever rabbit hole they want to fall down that particular day.
Yeah, well, it's also changed so much too because I don't remember when I was young that a library was such a meeting place and a hub for so many different
Yeah.
things, which is what it's become now, and so it's just fascinating. So then you went to Barnard College, you got your degree in literature. I'm so curious how that switched you over, and you got into advertising, which you were in for
Yeah.
25 years. Just make the leap for me from school.
Well, I didn't have a trust fund, so a trust fund is kind of a prerequisite for getting into publishing or writing straight out of college. I mean, it's I listen, I don't know, I can't tell you about publishing at this particular moment, but when I graduated, the pay was so low that just running the numbers, I knew I couldn't afford to eat and
Um,
work in the business. And I obviously it takes a long time to establish yourself as a writer. So knew I wasn't going to make any money doing that either. So I had to pay the bills. And advertising was a great, especially back then, like in the mid
mm,
'90s. That was the place where you ended up working with a lot of people who were in the business because they wanted to be directors, or they wanted to be writers, or
mm,
they wanted to be graphic artists, or they wanted to be. It was filled with just the most amazingly creative people who all had side gigs, who were musicians or artists or whatever. And it was a job where you could really make some creative stuff, especially back then.
wow.
It's changed a lot over the years. I don't think the opportunities are what they used to be, but it was a lot of fun, and I managed well. I worked very hard to stay away from the kind of businesses and accounts that I thought would be morally questionable. So I spent most of my time working on stuff like milk. I worked on the Got Milk campaign for a long time, and and Sonicare toothbrushes, which I
Mm.
recommend highly. Everyone should have a sonic hair toothbrush. So it was great. I enjoyed it very much.
And you also probably got a lot of fuel for for the change, because one of your characters, the change, is that
Yeah,
advertising
so
person.
it was fun from a creative perspective, but it wasn't always the most welcoming job for women, which is ironic because most ads are, are meant to speak to women because women buy almost everything for the household. So it was far less friendly, woman friendly than one would imagine. Although I always like to give credit where it's due. The first agency that I worked with was just a wonderful place. It was a small agency in New York. It felt like a family. We did really great work. And I spent probably 20 years trying to recapture that same experience and never quite managed to do so.
Did you start to write while you were doing this in terms of just creatively for yourself at the
Yeah,
same time?
I did not know, or I never imagined I would make any money writing. It was something that I did for myself and for fun. And my first book ended up being a kid's book, which is kind of hilarious because I wrote it to entertain myself. But I guess back then I was a 12-year-old deep down inside. Um, yeah, I just started writing it as a way to make myself laugh, and it ended up getting published. There was a lot of luck involved, as there is with most creative, successful
Sure.
creative endeavors. There's a lot of luck, and so it was a surprise to me, and I over the years after my first book got published would often keep one foot in advertising and one foot in the writing world, just because they used very different sides of my brain, and also because writing is incredibly, it's unstable financially, and it was good to have something, a day job, to make sure that the bills
You were
could all.
responsible. You were being
That's
responsible.
exactly, because I didn't have a trust fund. So
Yes, you were being a grown up and you were being responsible. I totally
I
get
was
it.
trying really hard.
um, and I had, this is so crazy to me. I had no idea until I started to dig on you a little bit, that we have the mutual intersection of Jason Segel.
Oh, how do you know Jason?
I cast Shrinking,
Oh,
and
you did.
so
Oh, okay.
no, so I
So
was
we can talk about how awesome he is. He's such a great guy.
he's the best. This morning I was saying to my husband, I was talking to him about you this morning, and I said, and strangely, I said, it's so weird. She's written this series of books with Jason. And he said, Jason who? And I said, Jason Segel. And he said, you're Jason? I said,
Yes,
yes, but it was obviously her Jason too.
he does. He does.
So
He does start to feel like you're Jason at a certain point, right? Doesn't he? Yeah,
yeah, no,
he's a
he's
lovely, lovely person.
he's the best. So I just love that we had that. I love this quote from, I'm assuming Suzanne Gluck is still your agent.
Yes, his,
I,
his,
I
my once and forever agent. Yes.
she said when she met you, you were Caleb Carr resurrected as a woman.
I love Caleb Carr, so that's great.
I was like, that is such an amazing quote. I love that so much. So
But
now,
Caleb Carr isn't dead, so I mean,
no, he is not. He is not. So maybe
so
you're a joined soul or
I'm his
something.
doppelganger, his female doppelganger.
Caleb Carr also seems to me like someone who would probably fit in your world somewhere, because he could be a warlock.
Yes, he's a deeply interesting and eccentric person, and I say that with great respect.
Yeah, 100%. So the change was termed as a feminist revenge fantasy. How would you classify the women of Wild Hill?
So I think that the Women of Wild Hill is, how would I classify it? It's funny because I need to have that, right,
You have to have
to
your
discuss
tag.
it. It really is. It's about the the mysteries and the wonder and the magic of the sort of the natural world, including DNA. So DNA was really kind of I started thinking about it, you know, because my previous book, Lula Dean's The Library of Banned Books, had a lot to do with DNA testing and all of
Mm.
this sort of stuff. And I've always been really fascinated by family trees and the gifts and the talents and the curses that are sort of passed down from one ancestor to, their sort of descendants. And you never necessarily know where, the gifts are coming from. But it's almost, with this book, I was thinking of DNA as kind of a treasure chest, right? Filled with all of these magical things that may or may not end up manifesting themselves in each individual. And I was thinking a lot about I had one grandmother who was extremely funny. Like, just was, naturally incredibly gifted. She had a way of just, her facial expressions could crack you up. And she was literally the only funny person in the entire family. And so you can see, like, that sense of humor, how it wound its way down through my father and then, to my sister and to myself and to my brother. And it's just, I always thought of it as this incredibly magical gift that I could trace to one person. I mean, I'm sure
Wow.
she got it from somewhere too, but it was just that line was so clear and so obvious. And, that was kind of the genesis for this book, was this idea of a family in which these magical gifts are sort of passed along, and they're building and they're growing and they're becoming more potent over time. And the question is, okay, what are they meant to do with them? What's the whole purpose
Mm.
of this? And because it's set in the Women of Wild Hill is set in the same world as The Change, it gives you sort of an explanation for why women are growing powerful and what they're meant to do with that power. So it was a lot of fun.
Have you ever done like an ancestry.com
Oh
or
God,
anything like that?
yes.
You
Oh
have done it?
yeah. My
Um,
sister has. I was like, she went and did the whole DNA thing, and I was like, what? Now I can't commit any crimes. What are you talking about? This is terrible.
how many siblings? Do you just have the one sibling?
No, I have a sister and a brother.
Okay. And where do you fall in the line?
I am the oldest.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And is your sister second or third?
My sister is second.
And are you all very close?
Yeah, I mean, as with any siblings, you fight and whatever over time. But yeah, we're a very good family.
And are any of them uh creative? Are they
Oh,
creative
they're
at all?
all creative. They don't
I love
write
that.
for a living, but it's my sister is does a lot of visual art. She's incredibly crafty in that way. My brother invents things. So it's just sort of, I think it's the creativity is there. We just sort of express it in different ways.
I find that so fascinating because I'm the youngest of four. My sisters were born first, obviously, and there's a big separation because my oldest sister is 15 years older
Wow.
than I am. So effectively, my mother raised two sets of kids.
Hmm.
But I'm just sitting there thinking because I was an actor, and but my oldest sister, who I'm personally closest to, was like a nurse anesthetist, but she performed in high school. She acted, and my brother was he used to draw incredible, like he would draw
Hmm.
cars and all these kind of things. But also I find it fascinating, and it comes up in your book too, the way that these gifts present themselves, but also what we kind of push down and what we also push away, and how as we develop what continues to come out or what's going to come out regardless. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of that. It's one of the things that because the book, The Women of Wild Hill, it focuses on two sisters. They are sort of the primary protagonists, and they're one of their daughters ends up being kind of what they call the third. But they are the focal point of the book.
This is
And I
Bridget
think
and Phoebe.
Bridget and
Yes.
Phoebe, and
Yes.
they, I think one of the things that I was playing with a lot was how the way that you're sort of defined within your family ends up affecting you, throughout
Mm.
your life. Like, you're the funny one, you're the smart one, you're the pretty one, you're the nice one, this, that, or the other, and how those labels aren't necessarily meaningful. We carry them with us throughout our lives. But at some point, I think a lot of us wake up and realize that they don't actually work anymore. And I think that's an important part of, I think, the conflict between the two sisters in this book. It's just that, they've been given these labels and they've carried them with them throughout their lives, but they don't necessarily fit anymore.
They're also kind of yin and yang together because they have gifts that reveal themselves that are complementary to each other, but they don't necessarily understand what that is yet.
Yeah.
And it takes a while for that.
I try to, I always work kind of what I'm thinking about in terms of the larger world into my incredibly witchy books, my crazy witchy books. But, one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is just this idea, this very simple idea that, we as a society are being pulled apart and we are stronger together. And it's incredibly important that we realize that before it's too late. And that's the same thing with these two sisters. They don't necessarily get along. They see the world in very, very different ways. But, it is through each other that they are able to accomplish what they are able to accomplish. They can't do it alone. They have to do it together. And it's just sort of, I was thinking a lot about that in terms of sort of the feminist movement and how, it has, I think there have been some fractures there. And it's like, no, I mean, we have a lot of big battles that we're facing, huge battles, like, existential battles. And we can't keep fighting amongst ourselves. We have to find a way to come together and, fight for each other. And so I think that's the hidden message behind the sisters in this book.
Yeah, it's interesting because, a lot of what comes out of this book is kind of the toppling of the oligarchy. And because at first I was like, oh, this is the patriarchy, but it's a much bigger thing. And it made me think, I don't know, do you know who the Texas State Representative James Tallarico is?
I do, and I love him.
I'm obsessed with him.
I do, and I love him. I like, oh my God, the way he talks, like, I am not a, whatever, I'm not going to go into my own spiritual beliefs, but the way that he talks about Jesus and the Bible and all of that, I'm like, I mean, he makes it beautiful. He really does.
He makes so much make sense. But I thought about him a lot in this book because he's argued that, like, right now, the biggest political divide is not really between the left and the right, but it's the top versus the bottom, with these wealthy billionaires who are working to keep people angry and divided, which is the epitome of this book.
10,000%. And that is actually, there's a character in the book who says that explicitly, that it is not about like liberal versus conservative. It's about, it's funny. It's like, and I love Beyonce. I do love Beyonce, but I was scrolling through Instagram this morning and there was a picture of her sitting at a table with Ivanka Trump. And, a lot of the commenters people were upset about that. And then there were people who came in and said, listen, it's all one big group. Like, you think like billionaires are billionaires. That's right. And I think that's, we got to wake up. Because there are people who are profiting from the divide in this kind of, in fact, I was going to write a post about this today. Like, it's, if you see somebody making money off of pulling people apart, that is a good sign that they are insincere. We need to fight. The ones who see profit and fame and fortune from tearing us all apart. And that's people who own social media companies, that's con men who are looking to sell you stuff. It's all, and it's on both sides.
Yeah, no, it's 100%. And I think so many people they just don't see it. I was in Texas this past weekend for my daughter's, it was her back to school weekend for her school. And I was very conscious in light of what just happened with Charlie Kirk and everything that's gone on, being in this place, um, which is extremely conservative. And, she's had, just in the 5 weeks she's been there, she said she had a conversation last week with three um, boys that are in her dorm, young men, I should say, and they were all talking, and they couldn't grasp the idea of two men being married and having children. Like, and
Yeah.
truly that baffled me in 2025 that they were just kind of really trying to understand it and say, like, so your dad's, and she was kind of just talking them through it. But again, I kept thinking, we've been so pushed apart for so many things,
Yep.
and social media especially has driven these wedges. I've said so many times, I sometimes wish it could all collapse so we could just begin to deal with each other as humans again. And I certainly don't mean to make this a political
No,
episode by any
no,
stretch,
no. No,
by
I
any
mean,
stretch of the imagination. This is the epitome of all of it right now, being controlled by these people, all of these tech bros. Um, that are running all of our lives at this moment. And
they make money off of our attention. We pay
yes,
more attention when we are angry.
yes,
So it is in their financial best interest to keep everybody angry all the time. And that is so bad for the country. It's bad for our mental health. It is bad for everything. And I agree. I mean, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and it was because, I am from the rural South and I live in Brooklyn now. And so I know what people in Brooklyn say about people in the South. And I know what people in the
yeah,
rural South say about people in Brooklyn. And let me tell you, everybody's wrong.
yeah,
Everybody is wrong. And it's like
yeah,
it makes my heart hurt. And yeah, there are bad people everywhere. Like what
right,
do you think?
right,
10% of people are always going to be crap. Like that's just
right,
like that's how it is. They're going to be, but you know what? Everybody else is just human. And
yes,
they may be flawed, and they may be this, and they may be that. But like, good God, we have to it's to imagine that everybody in Brooklyn is gonna rob you or whatever, or imagine everybody in the South is gonna do something terrible to you. It's just it defies logic, and we've gotten to this place. And the Charlie Kirk things highlighted that so clearly to me.
oh
Just
yeah.
we've become divided.
It's one of the reasons why I think, for me, reading your books, there's a catharsis in them, because you're dealing with these issues in a heightened, I almost said theatrical, but way.
It is
And
theatrical.
it is, but there is a catharsis to them, and books like yours give me hope that people will read them and glean from them messages, to kind of, put a fire under their behinds.
That's
Um,
the whole purpose. I mean, that's why I'm doing it. It's just I see, you know, I see the world needs a lot of work right now, and I I know we can do it. But the biggest thing holding us back right now, and it's not sort of the every time I go online and I see somebody say, "Oh, they'll just get away with it," or "Oh, nothing matters," or "This is nothing's going to change," blah 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 blah. I'm like, you're making it. That's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
right,
Every
right.
time you say nothing's going to change, nothing will change. It's like a spell. Words are magic, and every time you say that, you make it possible for nothing to change. Like
No, right.
everybody just reframed it and said, okay, you know, I'm going to make sure. And instead of posting, it's not going to change. You post, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that changes.
Well, that's it. And
You know,
people have to step up in whatever capacity they can step up to help and contribute and be a part of something, rather than let it happen to them and then complain about it, because
yeah,
that seems like to be the easiest thing. And unfortunately, we're at a crossroads, which we've been headed for a while, where um, people really have to look at this and say, what do I want my future to be? And less about that. Like for me, one of the things in sitting with you today, and I know you also have a daughter, and
mm,
it is so critical to me to empower her. And because of the barriers that have been erected and seemingly now in the last few years have grown exponentially. And one of the things that I want is to give her the tools that she's going to need to be safe, to feel empowered, and to be whatever she wants to be. Um, it's a weird thing because one of my questions I wrote for you, and I don't even know that you'd have the answer to this, but I know as a feminist and as someone who writes books about empowering women, what advice would you give young women today?
So one of the biggest issues that I see right now is that a lot of young women do not know the sort of the path women have taken to the point that we're at now. They have no idea what their grandmother's lives were like, what their mother's lives were like. They don't know just how recent so many of the rights that we have, how recently they've come to us. We've taken so much for granted over the past few decades, thinking that progress would continue along the same course, and it hasn't. And I think a lot of that has to do with just the fact that people don't know. People don't know that, it was only in, the early 90s that women were allowed to wear pants into Congress, or it was only in the past few decades that we were allowed to have, bank accounts and credit cards and, all of these different things. I mean, they just don't know, and I think that it allows us to have this kind of nostalgic view of a past that never existed. And so I would say if I were, and I do talk to young women quite a bit, know where you came from and tell everyone else. Take the stories, go ask your grandmother what her life was really like. Ask your aunts and your older female relatives what their lives were really like, and share those stories. Share them, because those are the most powerful tool that we have. People don't remember facts. They don't remember statistics and data, but they do remember stories. That's why they're so powerful. That's why we write books instead of PowerPoint presentations with,
Right.
So know the stories and tell them, because it's, even for me, I mean, I grew up with a very strong mother, and came into the working world thinking, and I went to Barnard. So then I came into the working world thinking there was nothing was going to stop me. And I was found out very, very quickly that things were not as perfect as I had imagined them to be. And it was only as an adult that I looked back on both of my grandmother's lives and realized just how difficult they were. In particular, I've one grandmother who was, she was on the outside. She was a perfectionist. Everything always looked perfect. She was a very beautiful woman. She always was well dressed and everything. And her life was a nightmare because she did not have access to, contraception. She wasn't, when she was my age, jobs weren't available to women the way that they are today. She had no way of being completely independent. And because of that, she was forced to suffer in a very unfortunate marriage. So it's just know your history. You may not even realize what's there. Go find out and tell everybody about it.
I love all that. And I love this about your books because this idea of female empowerment, because I've always said there are just more women. There are, right? So you as a force are so huge. I also, I think to myself, you hear this story all the time. Women give birth. They do this incredible thing. But I think if you look at women, just women raising children and women holding families together, I am so in awe. And so sometimes I've always thought, and this is why I love your books again, because it is in a way what you're just talking about is of knowing your worth and
Mhm.
taking your power. And I've always said, like, it is really women that can honestly sway elections. They could do
Oh,
so
oh yeah.
much that they're just, for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, the spiel I've been giving to everybody, and it's 100% sincere, which is we are the most powerful generation of women in the history of the world. We are. I mean, it's just economically, socially, culturally, in every
Mm,
way. We are far more powerful than any group of women in the history of the world. And we haven't really figured that out yet. And we got to wake up, got to figure it out, and we got to start using that power because there are a lot of people who are very keen to take it away from us right now. When I talk to people about us being the most powerful generation of women in the world, there's always somebody who points out that there are a lot of women who don't want to go along with this.
right.
They mention the trad wives and everybody else like that. And fine. I mean, one of the things that we fought for is the ability for women to make their own decisions. So we can't expect them all to make the same ones we do. But
Yeah,
we have for every woman who does not want
sure.
to go along with this, we have guys like you. You know what I mean? We have our male allies who are there to stand with us. And so I think that we just have so much to work with right now, and we can change the world. We can leave a better world for our daughters and our nieces and our godchildren and all of that. We just need to find the we just need to find the will to do it.
Getting back to the book for a moment, I don't think this is a spoiler to say that one of your characters from The Change makes an
Oh yeah.
appearance in this book, which I absolutely love. And you don't have to have read The Change to appreciate that. It's just like almost like an Easter egg for people who have read The Change. It's nice to see that. It makes me question, do you see a potential revisit to this world again?
Yeah, I created this world in The Change where it's sort of I was talking about like how Marvel has its universe of super, and I have my universe of middle-aged witches. So yeah, I mean, it's once you build that sandbox, it's so much fun to jump back in and play with it. I do have an idea for a third book along these lines, and I love Easter eggs. I love
Mm.
just like having these little treats that drop insert into a story that only people in the know will get. And so yeah, so Harriet being in there, I would I love that character so much. I would love to have her just pop up in everything that I do, whether it's
Right,
witchy or
right.
not. So
She's putting a book in the library.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So we'll see, but I imagine I will probably do something with this world again.
If you were given a gift, what would your gift be? What would your power be?
Oh my god, stop time. And I don't mean like for like aging purposes. I mean like so I could, go in and, enjoy the Met by myself, or, go in and, it'd be great for almost everything. Stuffing time is the ultimate superpower. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I
You
will
were on it. Like there was not even a pause. Like I was like you were like boom.
no, this is the sort of thing I spend a lot of time thinking about.
Wow, stopping time.
Mm.
Interesting.
You could prevent crime, you could commit crime, you could do there's so much you could do if you could just stop time.
Wow. I have no idea what I would do honestly, but that's a cool idea.
Yeah, I
That's a
think
really
you
cool
need to
idea.
spend you need to spend some time thinking about this because someday somebody may come to you. You never know when, and say this. What superpower do you want? And you have to be ready.
I know, and I think of the purest kind of adolescent fantasy of like be invisible, fly. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like it's following the track of exactly like you said of a Marvel character, and you're thinking much larger.
I just or like a superpower that like being so fast that you can essentially stop time. you know, that works as well.
Do you feel like in your writing of these stories, they're kind of aspirational for you? They're kind of a world of which this is what I think it could be and would like it to be ultimately?
Yes, that's it. It is all wish fulfillment, and that's why my books are always so hopeful. You know, they are the most. They may have extremely high body counts, but they are, at the end of the day, they are incredibly optimistic books. They are visions of how the world can be made better, and that's, it's part of my. I guess I kind of feel like I'm on this mission, um, because and it's more for me than for anyone else. But I just feel like, those of us who are on the side of good, we can change the world, but we have to get off our butts and do it. And so each of my books is kind of a kick in the pants for me and for women like me to go out there and start changing things the way that we want to see them changed. We can address violence against women. We can. We have the cultural, and political and economic power to do so these days. We can stop book banning like Lula Dean did. And we can fight against these, the oligarchy, the way the
Mm.
women of Wild Hill do. We can do it. We need the will, and we need to kind of figure out what our powers are and use them. And we have to fix things before it's too far gone. But it's
Yeah,
not
and
too far gone. We can
no,
right.
I don't think so either, but I think it is critical. And like with like the stories that you're putting out, the conversations that we need to have, the connections that we need to make, as uncomfortable as some of those things are, but I think, as we were talking about earlier, we have to get over this idea of left to right and think more top to bottom.
Anyone watching this, like, go look up James Tallarico from Texas.
Yes.
He's running for Senate, and he he articulates this fight perfectly. um,
Yes.
and it is really, it is I we have power and money and influence just concentrating with such a few, like a small tiny percentage of people. It is absolutely antithetical to everything that our democracy was meant to stand for. And it doesn't
That's
matter
right.
where you stand on the political spectrum. Like, if you really understand what's going on, you will,
It's
believe me.
mind blowing.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
As he says, he's also said, like, this is the 1% we need to be worried about, not immigrants, not trans people. They're not controlling everything.
No.
Those 1% are, it is these billionaires. So, well, I have to say, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your writing. I appreciate what you stand for. I'm so happy for your success. And the books are just damn entertaining at the same time. So please, everybody, go out and get The Woman of Wild Hill. If you can buy independent, please try to buy independent. That would be amazing. But Kirsten, thank you so much for being here. You're awesome. And good luck with all this. I can't wait to see what you cook up next.
Oh, yeah, it's great. It's gonna be the manosphere. So keep
Oh my
keep.
God. Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, I know. You can just see where that's going, right?
Right. Completely.
Thank you.
All right.